Guys, we've got a few housekeeping things before we actually get started with the session. If there are any questions at all from today's session, today will be a very concise session. Please feel free to direct any questions through the support and our services team will be able to help you out regarding that. So again, please, any concerns or questions, please email across to support@signaturesoftware.com.au. Also in regards to all handsets, could we please make sure we have quite a few participants on the session this morning. Could we please just make doubly sure that all of the actual handsets are on mute for the duration of the call to actually not have any unavoidable noises. And again, if you don't have a mute function on your handset, please dial 60# to actually mute the line. Okay, so thank you very much for your help with that. Now, just a prerequisite in regards to the ICE upgrade for the actual next-gen REM. Now, the actual ICE release for the TLS channel has actually been, I was ready for release this afternoon, and it will actually be 2.34 build 46 DB693. So before any of this work can actually commence in your live database systems, that prerequisite must be done in regards to the ICE database upgraded to this version, okay? So this version will be available via the Signature Software extranet page this afternoon. It will also include as well as the actual ICE application file, new connections module. It will also contain an actual new CIF file for import into your system, as well as another UPG file to activate the new next-gen REM payment parameters for the actual new program commencing the 1st of November. So again, we will send out the actual email for when we actually go and have released it this afternoon, so please be mindful that they'll be hitting your email box sometime this afternoon. Okay. Now, in regards to this morning's session, it's going to be a very, very concise session looking fundamentally at the changes within the actual system for next-gen REM. Now, we will be actually going through the actual configuration changes, back-of-house workflow changes as part of this next-gen REM introduction, as well as the front-of-house workflow changes, okay? So again, the prerequisite, obviously, understanding ICE and the actual function set of connections is already established. And again, we are just going to cover through the major changes from next-gen REM. So again, guys, any questions, and I'm sure there will be after today's session, please feel free to actually send an email to our support team, who are more than happy to actually help you out with those questions, okay? Now, in regards to the upgrade, we do recommend that, again, once the actual files are released this afternoon, if you are going to do the upgrade yourself, we do recommend you do it sooner than later, please, to avoid any concerns of downtime on the 1st of November. Now, all of the actual connection parameters and the data maintenance setup I'm going to be going through this morning can be done prior to go live as soon as you've done the upgrade to DB693. So that way you know that all of your setup is ready to go for the kickoff on the 1st of November, and there'll be no concerns about having any time offline. Okay, so just be fully aware of that. Now, first thing I want to touch on in regards this morning is in regards to configuration. So obviously, before we can actually get ICE to understand all the new variables, we need to do the setup. So first thing we're going to actually go into is the connection module itself and in the data maintenance parameters from there. So I'm just going to log into connections. And now go down to the bottom left side and select data maintenance. Now, as part of next-gen REM, we've actually introduced a new payment program. Now, for those of you that obviously are aware of the next NRM Plus payment program at ICE, it currently is Payment Program 3. Now, the OIC and next-gen payment program will be Program 4. So, as part of the upgrade script, the system will actually introduce this payment program for you. It will also actually have the start date of the 1st of July, so that way you can get all of your prereqs done before go live, and there'll be no concerns from a timing issue. Okay? Just be mindful, obviously, in regards to your connection adjustments, that when you start adjusting historical connections, you'll need to actually change in the connection window the actual payment program back to Payment Program 3, so that way you can see all of your connections raised in the prior REM program. But again, it will default to Payment Program 4 going forward after the upgrade, so just be mindful of that. Now, the first step on regards to configuration is in regards to your premise codes. So to go across to the far left-hand side now, please choose premise codes. And you'll be able to see, obviously, all the premise codes available and set up in your system. Now, there are two ways of actually flagging the system across into the next-gen REM payment program. One is you can actually just change the record across to the REM model of mobile OIC, or to actually introduce a brand new record to end date the old program and start a new one. Now, we do recommend that you do end date the old program and start a new one for the reason being of adjustments. If you do just flick your remuneration model across the new REM model, what will happen is you will not be able to adjust any transactions on NRM Plus while it's still actually on the new REM model, which means obviously for timing, you'd need to be doing all of your adjustments outside of hours, which can be very problematic. We recommend instead this way that you actually go into your existing setup, you actually change the end date of your NRM Plus one to have the end date of the 31st of October 2012 for your TLS sites, and then we will create a brand new record, as you can see here, for the mobile OIC payment program commencing the 1st of the 11th. Now, I've actually put mine here for illustration to a different date range to show you that in training today, but again, your start date for the mobile OIC program would be the 1st of the 11th, 2012, end date of the 31st of 12, 2999. Now, to actually end date your old payment program is very, very simple. When you load into this section here, just actually highlight the actual payments premise code in question, and then you can go across here and actually edit the actual date. Once the date has been edited, simply actually select the accept button on the top right-hand side, and that will then put the end date into the system. Once you have then changed that premise code to be end dated for the NRM Plus program on the 31st of October, you can then press the new button on the top right-hand side and insert a brand new record. Now again, if you actually do have 3 or 4 premise codes set up in your system, you'll need to actually end date the NRM Plus for every premise code record and insert a new record into the mobile OIC program. The start date of the 1st of the 11th, 2012, end date the 31st of 12, 2999, we can now go in and set up our revenue account for this actual REM model. Now to do that, all we now do after we've accepted that insert is go across to our revenue accounts button and check our REM model of the new OIC Oracle Incentive Compensation Program, which is the new program which has been inserted as part of the NextGen REM program. Now you'll actually see here there are quite a few different REM models that have now been introduced as part of NextGen REM, and obviously they need to be populated in the system so ICE actually understands how to actually transact against those new REM types. So we actually have new ones in the OIC REM model for value-added services. Back in the day, they used to actually go directly into the incentives. We now have value-added services going into their own unique revenue accounts. Now, for those of you that actually use the actual TLS benchmark chart of accounts, there is an existing revenue account in the system called Sales Data Packs, which you can use for the value-added service REM type if you would prefer. If you would not like to use that one, feel free to again insert through the GL Master accounts a new sales account and then actually attach that sales account to the actual respective REM type. Okay? We also have in the new REM program 4 new types. We have an ARO reimbursement, we have an upsell incentive, CLV incentive, and promotion incentive. Now, the ARO reimbursement for the accessory payment option, which is introduced as part of NextGen REM, actually requires a clearing account in the same manner that the MRO clearing account does. Okay? What I recommend, guys, is that you actually go into your GL Master accounts and actually insert a brand new actual clearing account in the same vein as your MRO clearing. So that way you actually know when your AROs post into the system exactly what clearing account they're using. Once that actual GL account has been set up, again, all you need to do is attach that GL account to the REM type here so ICE knows where to post that REM type when it's updated. In regards to the upsell incentive, the CLV incentive and the promotion incentive, now again, if you would like to, you can actually break them up into their own unique revenue accounts. Keep in mind though as well, if you do have multiple incentive revenue accounts, it can make your profit and loss quite busy, and again, most accountants do consolidate them at end of fin year anyway. What we recommend you actually do is use the Telstra incentive account and actually map them all back to the actual system from there. Okay? That way as well, if you want to actually run a report via REM type, you can. And again, if you actually need to come back and look at your P&L, all the data is in the one account and it's nice and easily accessible. Okay? Now, for those of you as well that actually have inserted a brand new REM model, so a brand new premise code, and have not just changed the payment program across, we also require you, as well as obviously setting up the actual OIC ones, we need you to also set up and populate the older REM models. So what you'll find is when you actually go through your system, there'll obviously be the ORM, the NRM, and the NRM plus REM model, which will also need to have those values populated. Again, they're not utilised, but they'll need to be populated. The easiest way for you guys to get the configuration for this is, again, just actually go into your system and drop down on the appropriate REM model, and again, just press print screen to screen dump the accounts that are in there. That way you can easily just transpose them onto the new record and you know exactly what revenue accounts to map back. This only needs to be done once, and once this has been done, again, you should have no more concerns going forward. Okay, so again, you will need to map any of the primary accounts for the ORM, NRM, and NRM plus REM models, the older existing ones, as well as OIC. If you do come across any concerns with that, though, please let our help desk know and we'll assist you with that. Okay. All right. Now, moving now across down to the mobile net service schedule. Now, this release of ICE has been the first one to actually fully utilise the OIC import file and commissioning system. Now, as you guys are fully aware, we did have a major change in the Telstra commissioning systems at the start of this year to actually have gone now from using the TCPS payment system to the OIC payment system. So again, when you get paid for your handsets, you'll note now that they do have X codes against them instead of the actual legacy codes we used to see in the olden days. ICE now fully understands all of those codes and actually has them all set up in the system ready for you to go. Now, keeping in mind as well, when it's moving now across to the OIC payment program, back in the legacy days of TCPS, you used to have one unique code to every business rule. So say, for example, if you sold a Apple iPhone 5 16 gig plan, say, for example, on a Freedom Connect plan 79 for 12 months, you would have one unique tag or product code for that plan. In the OIC structure, that no longer exists. So what actually happens is you have one tag or one product code for the handset, and you won't have one tag or product code for the plan, and you get paid for two different tags every time you sell the activation. Now, that being said as well now, ICE will now do exactly the same thing. We now actually map handsets, and we'll go through that quite in a moment. We map handsets back to our stock item and then sell that handset through the system as well as selling the plan. And ICE will then generate two lines, one line for the unique reference back to the handset and one line for the plan. Okay? So keep in mind that this needs to be done now due to the migration to the OIC payment file and payment structure, but you'll notice now going forward as the 1st of November is that all of your importing, there should be no product not found for service numbers because all of the tags are like for like. So the files you actually receive from your retail live export are exactly the same files or exactly the same product codes as ICE is expecting when you do the import, and they should come across seamlessly. Okay? That being said as well, in the OIC structure of the commissioning file, there are no more MRO tiers. And what that means is, back in the legacy days, we used to actually get a complete list of every tier that you guys could sell via an optimized tier, standard tier, and we would populate this for you. What actually has happened now is that Siebel has those tiers held in a different part of the system, and we no longer receive that feed. So as part of the front of house workflow, and we'll go through this shortly, one of the steps now is to actually insert the actual tier as part of the POS capture. So ICE actually knows what tier you sold to the client when you put the order through the activation systems, whether that would be Siebel or the legacy systems. What the system actually does, though, is it starts recording a history of all of those tiers for frequently used tiers. So say, for example, if you have an Apple iPhone 16 gigabyte phone, and the tier for that, let's just say, is used as an 864 tier, for example, say. What the system will actually do is, once that's being used once, it will then have that saved on the drop-down for frequent use. So to save the user from going through every time and actually having to type it in again, they can just drop down and select a frequently saved tier. And we'll go through that shortly as well so you can see that in action as well. So again, we've kept it nice and concise for you.